Oh, hello, everyone. Perfect. Perfect, yeah. All right. So my name is Johannes. And for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be talking about how to simplify the process of creating your native module for React Native. So I really love Create React Native App because it gives me like a boilerplate for an app, and I pretty much just use JavaScript and then have like Expo, or like I can run it on Expo and then deploy it really quickly and stuff like that. So this is amazing. But unfortunately, at some point, JavaScript will not be enough. So we have to drop down to native. So we need some native code on that. So we either eject from our Create React Native app, or we just use React Native init. So when using when creating your own native module, we had like this great talk from Florian before, and he went through how we were to create a native module in our own app. So there's like a similar kind of article on that, which does it for iOS and like bootstrapping your own native module, similar to in the steps that Florian presented. But like one core step is that you then need to extract it out if you want to share it. So, I mean, this is all fun and exciting if you do it like the first time. But if you need to do it like a couple of times, then it begins to become a bit repetitious. So I thought to myself, can we automate this? Well, and obviously we can. So I created this thing a while ago, actually, and it's called React Native Create Library. So obviously, with most kind of developer tools, you install it globally, either with yarn or npm, and then you can pretty much use it. So let's just walk through the steps that you would need to do if you would want to create a native module. So first of all, obviously we're doing like a Hello World example because Hello World examples are great. And afterwards, we get like this thing, oh, yeah, it creates like the module for us in a new folder. Then we can navigate into the folder and just inspect what it looks like, what the directory structure is. So what we see here is that we have an Android folder, an iOS folder, and the Windows folder. So inside of all of those folders, the native code lies. And obviously, we have like a package.json and a README, especially like if we want to share this module. So if we want to go from this kind of boilerplate that it creates to actually providing a native modules, we need to add some methods. And Florian went through this as well with the RCT export modules and the RCT export method. So we are pretty much doing the same thing here, that we add a method, and obviously for a Hello World thing, we're just logging it. So on the iOS part of things, we just add a method called Hello World, and this will log Hello World to the console. And now we just need to do the same thing on Android. Apologies for the small font, but Java code is unfortunately a bit verbose. So you see at the end, the last method that we need to create is just a Hello World, and then it does the same thing that iOS does, like it logs a method. So this is great so far. Now let me walk through some of the things that were important to me when I created this tool. So one of the things I wanted to have is I wanted to support as many platforms as possible. Obviously, this means iOS, this means Android, and actually we have Windows support as well, thanks to Eric, who helped a lot in that regard. And the second thing is, it was really important to me, is like similar to when we have Create React Native app or Create React app, that we have something that is deployable very quickly. I wanted to make sure of that when you do React Native create library, the boilerplate that you get, and after you added the methods to it, you are able to publish it directly. And if we go back to the Hello World example we just created, if we were to do npm publish after, we would be able to get this really quickly. So if we want to use this library, then let's say we publish this as React Native everyone likes Hello World. We just add it. And afterwards, we just need to do React Native link in our React Native project. And then it just links it all up. And then we can just import the module, call the Hello World method, and then we will see the logging. Right. So the next thing that was important to me is that I wanted to enforce best practices when creating a module. So there are like two things that are actually quite small things, but still important enough to me personally that I wanted to make sure it's part of the tool. So both of those things are related to the prefixes. So you might have seen this message earlier when I was showing off how to create a library, is that when you say React Native create library and then your library name, it will say, well, it's going to use rn as a default prefix, but it's recommended to customize that. So what that means is that on the native module, like the first two letters will be rn, which stands for React Native, obviously. But the idea is, if you have multiple developers who are going to create like the same library for something, you should actually use your initials or something else to avoid name collisions. And the next thing is, again, related to prefixes. So if you were to say, so now I'm using it to, I'm using React Native create library and specifying my prefix. This time I'm using RCT. But that's not a good choice either, because RCT is actually reserved for React Native core modules. So in this case, it will actually error and not allow me to create a library. So there's another feature that this tool has. So obviously the focus of this tool is to create a library and share it around. But it also works inside of React Native modules, inside of React Native apps. So how this works is that we create our React Native app, and then steps, and then we're done with the React Native app. And afterwards, we navigate into that. Now we add React Native create library as a dev dependency, and it's saved. And now instead of saying React Native dash create library, we can now, it's now being used as a plugin inside of this app. And now it will be created as a new folder inside of this app. So to be honest though, this is kind of like an afterthought. This is not that well integrated yet. So it does create a folder, but you need to link it up manually. So you can't use React Native link for that, unfortunately. So there's one module generator which is actually better in that regard, and that is React Native create bridge, which also has a few more features. So for example, it supports UI modules, which additionally to just native modules, and it also supports Swift and Kotlin. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for your time.